Everyone.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and get started as it's Natural Resources Board meeting. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance to honor our great nation. Thank you. I now call our hybrid in-person and online meeting of the Wisconsin Natural Resources Board to order. I want to mention that two of our board members are joining us virtually, Deb Dassow and Doug Cox. And so thank you for coming. I and others to participate remotely and want to recognize the talents of the IT folks. Month. Natural Resources Board. I know the governor's office is working on making a new appointment. Thanks to Patty, she was really a great asset in our decisions. I also understand the importance and the concept of family first, and I wish Patty and her family all the best. I have a few reminders and introductory comments before we start on the agenda. For those who may interrupt the meeting and try to minimize background noise. For those presenting online and for Doug and Deb, I'm really going to try to remember that there's a few second delay in the broadcast and pause periodically to make sure that you're able to participate and respond to the discussion. For the presenters, please remember to keep your sound muted and video off until it's your time to present. The Natural Resource Board meetings are televised live via YouTube and are recorded and available for review on the DNR website under Natural Resources Board. Yes, today. For over for how this board has and continues to operate. Natural Resource Board public can participate by submitting written comments prior to the meeting or both. Before we start the agenda, I want to extend team for the support you provide to the board and to your commitment to enhance collaboration between the department, the board, and the citizens of the state. We also want to thank our issue presenters, general counsel, our law enforcement officers, our Conservation Congress liaison, and all support staff who make these meetings possible. Your work is critical, your time is valuable, and your thanks and recognition the organizational and communication skills to provide the highest quality administrative and logistical support to the board. And she's your primary contact. Ashley, I routinely get pass information on to board members, so thank you. Lastly, I just want to thank all DNR employees, citizen volunteers, tribal partners, and conservation patrons for your commitment and tireless work to protect and enhance our natural resources for our and our future generations to come. Are there any questions from the board members? Ashley, you want to go ahead and do the roll call?
Sure. Rachel Baresa.
Present.
Doug Cox.
Present.
Deb Dassow.
Present.
Jeff Hastings.
Present.
Robin Schmidt.
Present.
And Bill Smith is absent and excused.
For your comment.
Great. Thanks a lot, Robin. And thanks for thanking the team. They are really exceptional and they run a great board meeting. So I just wanted to update you guys a little bit on the budget since I've been doing that pretty frequently. We continue to track what's happening at the federal level. We have a couple of the bills for the agencies by which we get federal funding that have gone through House appropriations process, and they're looking better than the president's budget, so that's good. We'll keep tracking it throughout the process. And then on the 1310s, which I mentioned last time, which we sent to Joint Finance, we were actually able for the committee to approve an additional $4 million in spending authority for the Fish and Wildlife Management programs recently, which is great. And I just wanted to thank the board and just members of the public for really advocating for those funds that we needed. Again, just a reminder that this was money that was transferred from the forestry account to the Fish and Wildlife account, but they didn't give us the expenditure authority to utilize it. So we're working through the plans for that funding. I think, while I remain thankful for the action of the Joint Finance Committee, and it's really great that they were able to act in a way where we'll be able to use that funding, we still need to continue to pursue a long-term sustainable fix for our Fish and Wildlife account, and just appreciate all the support you provide in highlighting that need and trying to work towards that solution. Since we last met, I've been able to do a lot of cool things. One was Earth Day, Arbor Day, and Forest Appreciation Week was all in one week. It's the Super Bowl of the DNR, I'm told, and I like that sort of name. It does feel that way. One of the announcements the governor made was that we are 54% along the way to our 100 million tree goal for the trillion tree pledge that he's committed to, which is great. I got to go to the fishing opener up at Nelson Lake, which was really neat. Just a beautiful day. Just a great way to open the season. I got to go to a project with EPA, MMSD, Milwaukee County Parks, and some other partners to look at a fish passage project where we're opening up basically an old area that was mined in the river that was keeping fish from getting upstream. And got to talk about how earlier this year we observed the first adult lake sturgeon swimming through the fish bypass in Ozaukee County, which is the furthest documented upstream movement of a sturgeon in the Milwaukee River in over a century. So really, really neat to see, when you kind of fix the system, the fish come back. It's really cool. Thank you, Robin, for attending the Conservation Congress. I thought that was a really good meeting. I also got to speak there and talk to a bunch of the delegates, and I think that's a really productive conversation. And the last thing I'll mention is that we stood up under EO 277. We had our Wild Rice Stewardship Council. So we had the first meeting just last week now. So there's 24 members currently, all represented from the 11 federally recognized tribes here in the state, and a lot of other conservation partners. Really trying to figure out the priorities of that group in terms of wild rice conservation and restoration and public education. I think there's a lot of work that group can do. In partnership with a lot of people who care about that. One need that I think we talked a lot about was that, there's just like a lack of understanding of the cultural importance of that resource to tribes and sort of our role in trying to communicate that together to the public to sort of raise the profile of that really important species. And I forgot to mention this yesterday, Robin, but I actually have to leave for a cabinet meeting at 11:30. I don't know if we'll be done or not, but Stephen will step in for me at that time. And that's it for me. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. All right, on to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to make one adjustment to the agenda. I request that item 6A, presentation of the 2025 Shakir Safari Club International Wildlife Officer of the Year Award, be elevated to immediately follow item 3 to accommodate the friends and family attending for the award presentation.
I can make.
All in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and then we'll move on to a vote on the agenda as amended. All in, who support the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? All right, we're all good to go. So the next item is the consent agenda, and I'll go ahead and read these items. Item A, approval of brief of action from April 15th, 2026. Item B, acknowledgement of donation from the Friends of Peninsula State Park, who donated a Ski-Doo Scandic snowmobile valued at $16,495. This donation will be used to groom winter trails at Peninsula State Park. Item C, acknowledgement of donation, Friends of Havenswood State Forest, who donated $115,000. This donation will be used to support educational programming at Havenwood State Forest over the next 3 years. Item D, acknowledgement of donation. Badger History Group donated $20,000. This donation will be used to restore grassland at Sauk Prairie State Recreational Area. And item E, acknowledgement of donation. Dane County Conservation League donated $17,000 to the Bureau of Wildlife Management. This donation will be used to fund 2 LTEs that will be conducting critical grassland habitat management work on the Buena Vista, Leola Marsh, and Paul J. Olson wildlife areas. Are there any questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move for approval.
Moved by Jeff.
A second.
Second by Rachel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. As such, we'll move directly on to item 6A, which is the presentation of the 2025 Shakir Safari Club International Wildlife Officer of the Year Award. And our Chief Conservation Warden, Casey Krieger, is going to come up and tell us all these great things.
Good morning, Chair Schmidt, Secretary Young, Deputy Secretary Stephen Little, Assistant Deputy Secretary Mark Aquino, other members of the Natural Resources Board, and those in the audience here and online. My name is Casey Krieger. I'm the Chief Conservation Warden and the Division Administrator for the Division of Public Safety and Resource Protection. Today, I'm honored and pleased to be here to bestow honor on Lieutenant Chris Bartelt with the 2025 Shakir Safari International Wildlife Officer of the Year Award. Lieutenant Bartelt is known as someone who leads by example, consistently working in the trenches with his team and sharing their workloads and successes, as you can tell by one of the pictures. You can say his specialty is analysis and problem solving, and he charges at challenges head on. His innovative mindset shines, and he leads the field wardens of the Woodruff team consisting of Oneida and Vilas counties, using creativity to adapt as the world changes around them and rising up to the new challenges that come. Lieutenant Bartelt goes above and beyond to share his leadership in statewide efforts as well. Lieutenant Bartelt ensures strong customer service by examining statutes and history to lead not only his team, but to assist others around him, such as the Northern Highland American Legion State Forest staff. He does this to correctly apply regulations and statutes consisting fairly for laws such as boat mooring, illegal burning, generators in our state parks, tribal issues, waterway wetland issues, and much, much more. Lieutenant Bartelt's overall goal is to set everybody up for success. With regards to tribal relations, Lieutenant Bartelt has a talent to build bridges and bring people together. The spring tribal harvest season is among his many responsibilities. Lieutenant Bartelt makes responsiveness a priority and is dedicated to ensuring everyone is safe during the tribal harvest seasons. To just give you a context for his workload, the Woodruff 1,000 acres, more than 2,000 lakes, and about 1/6 of Wisconsin campsites. If you've been to the north, you know the area is a treasure any time of year for both our citizens as well as folks visiting from across the world. I would also like to take a moment and call special attention to Lieutenant Bartelt's stellar communication and interpersonal skills. His approach is one to model. Lieutenant Bartelt leads calmly and respectfully and with a service heart in all situations. He's a walking example of common sense in implementing the art of team collaboration. And he usually does all this with a smile on his face, no matter what's going on. He is committed to the mindset that if we work together, we can find success. So in closing, I'd like to highlight that Lieutenant Bartelt is a Division of Public Safety and Resource Protection, and Lieutenant Bartelt only the department, but as well as the criteria set forth with Shakir Safari. Thank you, Chris, for doing what you do and how you do it. Congratulations to Lieutenant Chris Bartelt.
Thank you. I'm blushing a little bit. I don't usually hear that many good things said about me, at least not in front of me. So good morning, Secretary, members of the board. To say that I'm humbled over this honor would be a severe understatement. All the stuff that Chief Krieger read about, that my captain Brian Herenstein wrote about, wouldn't be possible without all the people that are on my team, my fellow lieutenants around the state, my fellow wardens around the state. We do an amazing job, and I'm fortunate, I'm lucky to be a part of it. I'm just glad that I've done it to a level that I guess some people think I deserve recognition for. So thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for the award. And I'm going to stick around and take in as much of this as I can. So thank you.
We're going to take a brief break and do a photo op so that Chris can get back and do what he needs to do. But I also want to thank you so much for everything you do. You are the face of the DNR, and you can't train people to have the personality that you have and to have those interpersonal skills. So, you know, it's a credit to you, to your family, and thank you for all your contributions. We'll be back in just about 5 minutes. Is it just me? Okay. Thank you for your patience for that brief break. And again, congratulations, Chris. Outstanding work. We'll move on to our action items, agenda. A, request the board adopt emergency board order FH-21-25E for proposed rules affecting chapters NR 20 and NR 40 related to changes to the bag and possession limit for the round goby on Lake Winnebago system area waters. Kari Lee Zimmerman is here to present for us.
Good morning, Secretary Schmidt, or Secretary Chair Schmidt, excuse me.
can have
It's
it.
a little earlier than I like. Here today to talk to you about Goby again. This should be the last time until I circle back with a permanent rule, but we are looking for approval of Board Order FH 21-25E. So this is the final stage adoption of that round gobies. Oops. Are non-native invasive fish that are smaller and displace other native fish. They are not established in the Winnebago system, but they have been found last June. And so we did some follow-up monitoring and we found additional round gobies, but in a fairly localized area. So current regulations require that people can only possess one and that they have to take it to a DNR service center for identification. The current regulations were intended to not allow people to transport gobies. But the unintended consequence is if you catch more than one, you would technically have to throw it back. And we don't really want them in Lake Winnebago where they're not established. So the purpose of this emergency rule eliminates the possession limit for round gobies caught on the Lake Winnebago area water system, so that they can be kept by the anglers as long as they are eviscerated, decapitated, or their gills are removed. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
I don't have a question, just a comment that I live up in that region and I've been seeing a lot of public outreach as the fishing season's gone on with that message from some of the partner groups with some of the same pictures. So kudos to the department and thanks to the partners for their work in promoting this, preventing the spread.
Not promoting this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Are there any other questions from the board members?
So I understand they're make pretty good bait fish or bait for fishing. So I know they can't get kept alive, but can they be cut up and used for bait?
I might call it to Matt when. I think as long as they're eviscerated and they're not moved off the water body, I believe they can be, but I'm gonna.
Right. Okay.
I have to check on that,
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. It's just these invasives are just, it just seems like they're taking over
Yeah.
the world, whether they're plants or animals. And I understand that even if they're cut up, that, with eggs and stuff, could still get into the buckets and so forth. And they can, maybe a possibility to spread that way. So I was thinking that if they were not, if they were only kept so that they could identify them and dispose them, that would be the way that the final rule should read and be made the public aware of, I guess. So, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. A motion by Doug Cox. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rachel. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Kari. The next item is, the next item we move on to our scope statements. Item B, request from the board that the statement of scope for board order FH-20-25 and conditionally approve a public hearing and submittal of the proposed rules to the Legislative Council Rules Clearinghouse. This rule package affects section NR 20.35 to allow for alternate size and bag limits for walleye under specific conditions for the rehabilitation of walleye fisheries. Kari, you're up for this too. I want to note that we have received written comments in support of this item, and we also have one speaker for this item. And so Kari, when you're done, we'll proceed with the speaker.
Thank you. Again, I'm Kari Lee Zimmerman with the Bureau of Fisheries Regulation and Policy Specialist. I'm happy to be here for the start of the process regarding walleye scope statement FH 20-25. This relates to NR 2035, which is a simplified process that allows biologists the ability to apply, remove, or extend certain special bag and length or both limits on certain water body as a temporary and corrective measures. So for this particular one, we're looking at a walleye lakes of concern where under very specific circumstances, biologists would like to apply a certain regulation to help in the rehabilitation of the walleye fishery. So the very specific condition under which this would be able to be used is when there's less than 15 young of year walleye per mile in the shoreline. So if they're under these conditions, they're considered a walleye lake of concern. And the rehabilitation reg that the department uses for walleye in this instance is an 18-inch minimum length limit, but fish from 22 inches to 28 inches may not be kept, and it would be a 1-bag daily fish. Happy to answer any questions you may have about this.
Are there any clarifying questions? Otherwise, we can open up to questions after we have our speaker. Sound okay? So we have Mark Luring representing the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission. Mark, welcome. I see you're here with us virtually.
Good morning, everybody. Appreciate the board taking the time to listen to me speaking here today. So again, my name is Mark Leering. I'm the Inland Fisheries Section Leader for Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, or GLFWC. We work with the 6-member tribes here in northern Wisconsin that have treaty rights in the 1837 and 1842 ceded territories. And so a lot of the work we do is closely with the Department of Natural Resources on the management of lakes and walleye and our waters here. And so, as a lot of you know, I'm coming from Odena, Wisconsin, where my stream is coming from today. It's in far northern Wisconsin. And, northern Wisconsin is a place where when our waters are doing well and our fish populations are doing well, everybody is thriving up here. Tribes are, the local communities are. It's a big part of what we are up here in northern Wisconsin. And walleye populations are declining up here. And so it's been a big concern, both of ours and of the Department of Natural Resources. And what we found in the last few years is that the current processes that we have not been adequate to reverse these declines or even slow it. So we keep adding more and more lakes each year that used to be good, naturally reproducing walleye lakes, and now are declining. And a lot of you might know already, between Wisconsin DNR, GLFWC, and the tribes, we collect a lot of data on ceded territory walleye populations. It's probably one of the most comprehensive data sets in the world. We collect data on adult abundance and on juvenile abundance in the fall. And so these data we have summarized and exchanged on an annual basis. Adult data in August, juvenile data in December. And I think it's just important that we're able to make immediate use of this data. So the scope statement does a pretty good job of identifying that the current process is kind of long and onerous. And when we see walleye populations decline, we're not able to, the DNR biologists aren't able to make regulation changes quickly. And we think that's important for the health of these populations. Because we have good data, we might as well use it right away if we see populations declining. And that actually definitely would help in developing joint rehabilitation plans with the tribes, because tribes can make immediate changes to their regulations to be more conservative if they need to. Also, it prevents further declines while we wait for new regulations to be developed. That's the way the current process is. And that gives us the best opportunity for recovery in these places. So that's really all I have on this item. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. And then I would just direct your attention to a more detailed letter from Jason Schlender, our executive director, that's in your materials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your time and the fact that you're able to provide us with that insight from the tribal nation perspective. Thank you. All right, so are there any questions of Mark from anyone on the board?
Hey, this is a question for either Mark or Kari. What percentage of the lakes in that area do you anticipate this impacting?
Mark?
Mark, have any
Um,
thoughts on that?
It's a difficult question to answer. There's some lakes that we already have rehabilitation plans in place that have gone through the normal process. So they already have that regulation. I haven't done a thorough deep dive into the data, but it's more than we'd like. There's definitely more populations that are in trouble than we'd like to see. And I know there's some that are probably already in this round of rule change proposals, that would come through that as well, through the standard process. So really good question. And I can look that up and try to get back with an answer.
Oh, no worries. And yeah, thanks for all you do up there.
Are there any other questions? Kari, I had just a quick question for you. Could you just describe a little bit the groups that you involve working with in the development of this process?
So biologists have worked closely with fish groups, particularly in the north where we have a lot of these areas of, or walleye lakes of concern. And then again, closely with the tribes on implementing this as a more expedited option rather than the sort of longer 2-year rule process.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved, Madam Chair. This is Deb.
They moved by Deb. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jeff, second by Jeff. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion is approved. Thank you for your work on this and good luck.
Thank you.
The next item is item C, request that the board approve the statement of scope for Board Order WY-18-25 and conditionally approve a public hearing and submittal of proposed rules to Legislative Council Rules Clearinghouse. This rule package affects chapters NR 102 and 104 to establish designated use classifications for subsistence fishing and wild rice waters and to revise outdated information in chapter NR 104. Laura Dietrich. Hi, Laura.
Good
Welcome.
morning. Good morning, Chair Schmidt, Secretary Hahn, and members of the board. My name is Laura Dietrich, and I'm the Water Valuation Section Manager within Wisconsin DNR's Water Quality Program. I'm here today to request approval of the scope statement to revise chapters NR 102 and 104 to establish designated use classifications for subsistence fishing and wild rice and to revise outdated information in chapter 104. As you can see from the slide, we are currently at the beginning of the rulemaking process. The purpose of the scope statement stage is to first determine the rulemaking, which should occur, and second, what scope of the rulemaking should encompass. What we do or do not include in the scope statement is important because that will set sideboards for what can be revised during the rulemaking efforts. Today, we are asking for input, whether the scope is appropriate for our effort, and throughout the rule revision process, there will be more opportunities to provide input on the content of specific details and framework of the rule. The statement of scope was published in the Administrative Register on April 6th of this year. JCRER did not request a preliminary hearing, and we are able to move directly to approval of the scope statement of scope at today's meeting. So the objective of the proposed rulemaking is to update, as mentioned, the state's designated uses for surface water bodies. Designated uses define the goals of water bodies that are based on the needs of the humans and wildlife that interact with them. They are also the foundational component of our water quality standards. The proposed rule may include updates to Chapter NR 102 with the addition of designated uses or use subcategories to protect water quality and habitat for subsistence consumption of plant and animal aquatic food sources. This may include adding use subcategories for subsistence fishing and wild rice. The proposed rule also looks to revise outdated information related to limited aquatic life and limited forage fish subcategories in Chapter NR 104. These changes will be considered with input from tribes and a diverse group of stakeholders, including industry representatives, conservationists, and other department and agency experts. We will seek this input throughout the formation of a technical advisory committee as well as specific tribal update meetings. Currently, Chapter NR 102 has 4 main designated use categories: public health and welfare, recreation, fish and aquatic life, and wildlife. As previously mentioned, the intent of this rule would be to develop one or more designated uses or subcategories that would be applied to a subset of water bodies that support subsistence fishing or wild rice, rather than all water bodies. The department will work with stakeholders and tribes to determine the specific framework of the rule that may include the appropriate geographical extent to which these designated uses will apply, or developing a mechanism for identifying waters that should be protected by the designated uses. For instance, they may be applied to certain geographical areas or to individual water bodies throughout the state. The structure, placement, and wording of the new designated uses or subcategories in relation to the existing designated uses will also be evaluated. This figure provides one example of how these new use subcategories may be incorporated into the existing structure. are Chapter NR 104 revisions. So this proposed rule also includes revisions to Chapter 104 by revising or updating information for our currently listed limited aquatic life and limited forage fish waters. These updates will make code current with what is actually occurring and may include revisions to location information, water body names, names of roads or facility names. We'll look to remove waters where a surface water discharge is no longer occurring. And we'll look to remove the public water use supply designation to certain water bodies, as most systems in Wisconsin now use groundwater instead of surface water for their source. So I appreciate the opportunity to share this information with the board and can offer to take any questions that you have at this time.
Again, we have one speaker who wishes to speak with us, and we also received written comments on this. If there are no technical questions, we'll go ahead and have our public speaker, Mark, come back to us from the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission. Mark,
Would you-
welcome back again, and thank you for your patience, and we're happy to hear from you. And I just want to make a mention that Glifook is a tribal advisory to the agency, and as such, that 3-minute time limit that we have for public speakers doesn't apply. So I just wanted to clarify that. So go ahead, Mark.
Bonjour, good morning again, everybody, and I will try to keep it under 3 minutes anyway. Hopefully, I don't think I have that many comments, but again, there's reintroduce myself, inland fisheries section leader with Glifook, and there is a letter again in your packet about this that talks about the scope statement here. I just wanted to highlight again, along with the same theme, when our waters and our fish populations, and I would put wild rice in with that too, when they are healthy in the north, our communities are thriving too. And so this is another step that can be taken to explore this scope statement and go down this path to help protect those things for our tribal communities, but also for the residents of the state that are up here too. So one of the main things to highlight here is that tribes with treaty rights are depending on the quality of the water up here for subsistence harvest. And of course, everybody else depends on good water quality too. So this is a win-win type situation. Tribes need good water quality, but we all do. And so when water quality is being degraded, that also degrades the food that comes from the water. Depending on what the pollutant is, it can affect the ability of tribes and everybody else to eat that food from the water. And so we want to encourage water quality standards that are in line with that reality up here. And I think this scope statement starts the process, at least, to try to do that. Again, more details in a letter from Jason that's in with your materials. And I think that's all I have for this item. So again, really appreciate your time and your patience listening to me.
You're welcome. Any questions for Mark? Any questions on this topic?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Doug.
And not so much a question, just a comment on support for this. It's refreshing to see this come forward. You can see from Executive Administrator Slender's letter that they're fully supportive of it. So it's important to have Glifook chiming in on this. And you've all heard me speak in the past about the importance of subsistence and gathering and fishing, and in particular to contaminant limits and looking at protecting those resources that our tribes are utilizing for subsistence out there. So it's refreshing to see this and fully support it. And I'm glad Glifook is there as well to chime in. So just wanted to say that much.
Thanks, Doug. Any other questions? I have a question. I think when we talked about this, are there other states that have done this, or is Wisconsin in a leadership position? Yes.
Yeah, so to the best of my knowledge, we are leading the way. We would be the first state in the nation to look at creating designated uses specifically for fish consumption and wild rice. So yes, we would be leaders in this.
Well, I really appreciate the forward thinking here, and I think there's a lot of populations the tribals for sure, but also in urban areas where there are quite a number of people who rely on subsistence fishing for their survival. And so kudos to you. I wish you good luck with this process, and we look forward to hearing the results.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion for approval?
I'm going to make that motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, moved by Doug. Rachel will
second.
second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Good luck. All right, other approvals. Item D, request the board initiate a master plan process for the Wolf River State Trail. Erin, is it Reiser or Reeser?
Reeser.
Reeser, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, of course. Good morning, Chair Schmidt, Secretary Hyun, members of the Natural Resources Board. My name is Erin Reeser. I'm the Property Planning Section Manager, and I'm here this morning to talk about the Wolf River State Trail Master Plan and request initiation for that master planning process. One day I'll remember how this works. Oh, okay. So master planning is a collaborative process to develop a framework for future management of department properties. It provides us the opportunity to engage the public, develop an ecosystem scale analysis, which helps us provide consistent management across multiple properties. These days, the majority of the plans that we create and the planning processes that we work through are for regional plans, but from time to time, an individual property plan is warranted. And we believe that's the case for the Wolf River State Trail. The Wolf River State Trail is a cooperative trail, which means the department owns the land and a local partner is responsible for the maintenance, management, and occasionally also the planning. The Wolf River State Trail in particular is located in 2 counties, Langlade and Forest County. The Forest County portion of the Wolf River State Trail was recently included in the North Central Forest Regional Master Plan, which we completed and approved here just last month. The Langlade County portion of the trail was not able to be included. And that's because until recently, only until recently, the planning authority for that trail was held by Langlade County. The cooperative agreement with the county ended the first week of April in 2026, at which point it was far too late for us to consider incorporating a plan for that portion of the trail into the North Central Forest. Now that we have planning authority, we have reviewed the existing plan, which was written by Langlade County in 2006, and considered that for sufficiency moving forward. Given the age of the plan, we would not be able to use an NR 44 process to amend it because it wasn't written by the department. It wouldn't necessarily be appropriate to just extend that plan either. Given the advantage of the momentum that we have from the recently completed North Central Forest Regional Master Plan, all of the regional analyses, the knowledge that property staff have already been developing for that property, other materials that have been developed, we think now is the right time to be initiating a plan for the Langlade County portion of the trail. So that's what we are here today to request. Wrong way.
We do not have any public speakers on this item. So do you have any questions from the board?
I do have more. if you
Oh,
want.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. That's-
That's okay. So just a little bit more background on the trail. As I said, it's located in Forest and Langlade County. It's within the North Central Forest and the Forest Transition regions. The trail in Langlade County is 20.9 miles of developed trail with another 2.45 miles of undeveloped portion at the southern end. We already have a few questions that we know we're going to have to address through the planning process, such as connectivity of the trail to the larger network, as well as authorized uses on the trail. We're also going to be seeking a new cooperative partner to assist in managing and maintaining the trail and having a new plan that outlines the future 10 to 15 years of what we'd like to see on this trail will help us secure that partner. We know we have a lot of nearby conservation land, including Langlade County Forest, Forest Legacy easements, the Upper Wolf River Fishery Area, the Evergreen River Fishery Area, and other department and other conservation lands that we'll need to consider when we're looking at impacts to natural resources, recreation needs and demands in the region, and network opportunities to expand the trail network. this is our expected schedule. It's not nearly as long as a regional plan, which we expect to average 2 to 4 years. This one, we're expecting more like 8 to 12 months. So we do think we'll be moving quickly through this process, in part because we already have that momentum and all of those initial materials pretty close to ready to go for this planning process. We would anticipate that first public input opportunity coming this summer. Once those comments are reviewed and shared back with the public, we'd be able to move into draft plan with the second public input opportunity before the end of 2026. So I anticipate potentially being back here in a year or less to present the proposed plan if you authorize us to move forward with the process. Now we can get to questions.
I apologize for
Sorry.
cutting you off. And thanks for that additional information. That was really helpful. All right, so now, are there any questions from members?
No, I think
Chair?
it's really efficient and cool. And now I have another spot to check out when I head up that way.
Thanks, Rachel. Doug?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So Aaron, so since Langlade planning isn't part of the plan anymore, are they partners with the DNR in creating the new DNR plan?
At this point in time, Langlade County has no involvement with the Wolf River State Trail in Langlade County. That doesn't mean that a new agreement might not come into play in the future. But right now, there is no cooperative partner for the trail. So we are seeking new opportunities.
Then a couple follow-ups, Chair.
Go ahead.
So one would be then, do we know if Langlade County is supportive of the trail?
They support the trail. They definitely want the trail to continue to exist and to provide additional trail mileage to their robust trail network in the county. There were just some disputes through the agreement and it didn't work out for us to continue at this time.
Okay, and my last one is, I know the trail terminates right at the northern boundary of Menominee Reservation. Has there been any communication with the tribe on the trail and where it terminates? I don't know where that ends specifically, but I'm wondering if there's been any communication.
Not as of yet, as we haven't initiated the process yet, but that's certainly on the list of items. And that 2.45 miles of undeveloped trail is that last 2.45 miles at the end at the Menominee border, because we don't want the trail to just dead end at nothing. So 2.45 miles north of the border is where the trail connects, I think, to County N. So there's somewhere to go once you get to the terminus of the trail rather than just this arbitrary county line.
Okay, thank you.
What other partner groups are there potentially?
I know they're working potentially, they sent out an RFI for requests for people to send in some at least short-term agreements to work with the trail, because once we have a new plan, those terms might change based on what's going on with the plan and uses on the trail and other development opportunities. So I know some of the people that have been talking about putting in a proposal are like the ATV clubs and like the mountain bike groups or the cycling groups that are talking about potentially taking over some maintenance and management authority of the trail while we work through the planning process. I don't have a lot more details than that, but I can get them if you're interested.
And then what percentage is the current use? Is it mostly snowmobiles, ATVs, bikes?
It's all open to snowmobiles. The portion of the trail in the middle, so about 50% of it that's close to the Upper Wolf River fishery area and the Wolf River is closed to motorized use. So then it's the northern portion and the southern portion that are open to motorized use.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Aaron, can you just briefly describe the various interest groups that you plan on working with? I'm assuming the Menominee Tribe would be one of those groups.
The Menominee Tribe, of course. Yeah, we'll do our standard public outreach opportunities. We have the full list of folks that signed up to be informed about the North Central Forest, so we'll engage that entire group as well. We'll work with all the tribes. We are still in the ceded territory, so that's going to be a really important outreach opportunity for us through this planning process. We already have engagement from a lot of motorized and non-motorized users in the area, as well as folks like Trout Unlimited and other fishing groups that are going to be interested in what happens to that trail since it does pass through the Upper Wolf River fishery area. So we have that list from North Central Forest, and we're just going to keep on building it larger as we go through this process.
Great, thank you so much. All right, any other questions? Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Moved by Rachel, is there a second?
Second by Deb.
Second by Deb, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Erin, good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, item E, land donation for Governor Knowles State Forest in Polk County. Kaylin, welcome.
Thank you, Chair Schmidt, Secretary Hune, members of the board. I'm Kaylin Helm, the Real Estate Section Manager, speaking on item 4E. The department is requesting approval to accept 2.96 acres of land and 0.8 acres of easement for the Governor Knowles State Forest located in Polk County. This donation is offered by Marcia M. Marcourt and is accessible to the public through department-owned lands on 3 sides. The easement portion of this donation is for department and emergency services access. The subject parcel is a long strip of land that runs parallel to the Trade River Equestrian Trail System, one of the busiest equestrian trail systems in the state. Several years ago, Marcourt allowed the trail to be relocated on her property after wet conditions along the original route caused a horse and rider to become mired, requiring a rescue. As a horse enthusiast, Marcourt supported moving the trail onto her higher, safer ground and has now chosen to permanently gift this land to the department. Acceptance of this donation will improve rider safety, protect wetlands near Wolf Creek and Trade River, and with the easement donation will reduce emergency response times. Timber management will also be improved by resolving irregular ownership lines in this area. Governor Knowles State Forest is located along the St. Croix River and serves as an extended resource protection zone for the St. Croix National Scenic Riverway. Management of the state forest focuses on scenic beauty, water quality protection, wildlife habitat, forest production, and recreation. The 2.96 acres would be open to the public for the 5 NBOAs and provide improved recreation and management at the state forest. With that, the department is recommending the acceptance of 2.96 acres of land and 0.8 acres of easement for the Governor Knowles State Forest from Marcia M. Marcourt. That a certificate of appreciation be sent to the donor, and that an expression of appreciation be made a part of the official records of the Natural Resources Board. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
We don't have any public speakers for this item. Are there any questions from the board? I just want to relay our gratitude. Again, another example of great partnerships that you've developed and the generosity of our citizens to allow more use, public use of all these precious lands. So,
Yep.
do I have a motion for approval?
I move for approval.
Moved by Jeff. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Doug. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Congrats. All right, so it is 9:25. We haven't been meeting for even an hour yet. Open forum is next. Are our virtual presenters available? Okay, all right. So I will go ahead and we have 4 speakers for open forum. I would like to remind our speakers presenting that keep your verbal comments to 3 minutes or less. And if you need more time, you're welcome to submit the whole of your comments in writing to Ashley, who will and does forward them to us. In order to help you monitor your time, we have a light system that begins with a green light, changes to yellow when you have 30 seconds left, and then turns red when your time is up, and we ask that you bring your comments to a close. For our speakers presenting virtually via Zoom, we have implemented a timer that will appear in the top right corner of the screen to notify you when there is 1 minute remaining of your speaking time. We're really grateful that speakers honor the time limit and close their comments when the red light appears. Also want to be sure that you understand that the open forum is not typically a time when the board debates a particular topic. Topics you discuss with us have not been public noticed for discussion or action. We listen to you, we ask clarifying questions, and we consider your thoughts for future agenda items or action if warranted. Also, please understand that some topics brought forward during the open forum may be outside the scope or authority of the DNR, and there's little response we're able to provide on those topics. If we don't ask questions, please know that we have heard you and that your voice is important to us. So I will move on. Our first speaker is in person, Mally Kuczynski of Beaver Dam, to discuss water quality issues. Is it Miley? I apologize. Miley, thank you.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Miley Kaczynski. I'm a lifelong Wisconsin resident, educator, and property owner in the township of Trenton, downstream from the Metadata Center construction site in Beaver Dam. For over a year, I've been trying to get answers through the WDNR about dramatic changes to the water system on and around my property. For over 48 years, a natural creek has flowed on our land. It is steady and predictable, but after large-scale construction began upstream on the data center in May of 2025, the creek began repeatedly to stop flowing completely. It would return suddenly without rainfall, sometimes cloudy, opaque, and forceful enough to cause severe erosion and damage. Although there's a quarry between my property and the data center, the DNR mining geologist informed me last September it's not believed to be causing the water quantity issues affecting my creek. This led us to look more closely at the massive construction activity occurring upstream at the data center site. Neighboring wells have gone dry. My own water testing now shows elevated strontium levels requiring filtration because my water is no longer safe to drink. From the first moment in May of last year, I contacted DNR. Wardens came out, samples were taken, and multiple departments became involved. And I want to be clear that the staff I spoke with were professional and they were trying to help me. But what I encountered was not a coordinated system. My reports were transferred between departments and lost during staffing changes, and I was repeatedly referred to new contacts and asked to start over. Different divisions handled separate parts of the issue, but no clear lead authority coordinated them together in one investigation. Meanwhile, residents are left carrying the burden themselves, documenting, paying for testing, researching, and trying to navigate a process that feels fragmented and unclear. I've reported issues consistently for months, multiple times per week. Today, over a year later, I still do not have a clear answer about what has happened to our water system, who is responsible for determining that, or what protections exist for residents living near a project like this. I also want to address the hydrology study prepared for Meta. It was a desktop review, not an independent field investigation. It did not include field monitoring data capable of ruling the project out. What many of us are asking for is an independent, transparent investigation using real field data capable of either responsibly ruling the project out or identifying impacts if they exist. It feels as though attention keeps shifting elsewhere while the one area requiring the most thorough independent evaluation, the active construction site itself, has not undergone that level of study. Meanwhile, residents are living with the impacts every day. I need you to help recognize that residents need a clearer path to answers, accountability, coordination, and communication when serious environmental changes are reported. I cannot drink my water. When ordinary citizens follow the process and still can't get an answer, the process begins to break down and we, the people, are suffering the consequences. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Are there questions?
Thanks for sharing that.
Did you also provide submit written comments and photos?
Did. So I have updated photos in these packets for you. I have more copies here. I also have a summary of our water impact and my detailed documentation of what we've been going through.
I really appreciated being able to read about this and the clarity in which you provided information. So I just want to thank you for that. And We appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
What was elevated in your testing of the water?
Our strontium. So I did include an image of the water testing results on the last page there, indicating that it is no longer safe to drink. And it is also not safe for our horses to drink. And so we've been buying and drinking bottled water and cooking with it, but we cannot do that for our horses. And they shouldn't be drinking it either.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is virtual. Bob, is it Boucher? Boucher, I apologize. We'll be talking about beaver management for flood mitigation. Bob, welcome, and I apologize for mispronouncing your name.
Don't worry, Deb, that's often the case. Well, thank you, Natural Resources Board, Secretary Hune, and the department staff. My name is Bob Boucher, and I'm president of Superior Bioconservancy. I have a master's degree in water resource management from the UW in Madison, and I study how beavers affect hydrology. I'm an advisor to the Beaver Institute, and I have presented at numerous national and international scientific conferences on how beavers influence hydrology. I recently served as a member of the WDNR Beaver Management Committee. During that process, I introduced several current technological management ideas, watershed maps, and staff recommendations and improvements as suggestions to the beaver management program for the WDNR. I worked on a 2020 study. We looked at the hydrological impact of beaver habitat restoration in the Milwaukee River watershed. This was basically ponds that would be upstream in the 900 square mile area. Worked with civil engineers, hydrologists in the GIS department of the UW of Madison or Milwaukee, and Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District, and Milwaukee Riverkeeper. So I was one of the participating authors. In that study, we found that beaver restoration would reduce peak flood levels by an average of approximately 37% and provide up to about 1.7 billion gallons of stormwater storage. For reference, the deep tunnel provides 531 million. So 3 times much storage could be generated by restoring beaver ponds in the upper stretches of the Milwaukee River watershed. MMSD estimated this in terms of stormwater storage worth $3.4 billion in ecosystem services, not for water quality, just for storage. These outcomes directly support the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District long-term flood management and water quality objectives. The Milwaukee River watershed, as I said, is about 900 square miles and represents a significant opportunity to implement scalable, nature-based solutions that complement MMSD's capital investments while reducing system vulnerability to increasingly intense storm events, which we've had in 25 and 26. The Superior Bioconservancy respectfully requests that the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources promulgate an emergency rule designated the Milwaukee River Basin as a beaver recovery zone and prohibiting the taking of beaver within the zone. This request is based on the department's statutory authority and the immediate public health, safety, and welfare benefits associated with maintaining and expanding beaver populations and beaver wetlands in the basin. So beavers are a keystone species whose wetland forming activities provide natural stormwater storage. They reduce peak flows, improves water quality, and stabilize watershed hydrology. These beaver wetlands function as a most cost-effective green infrastructure by slowing water down, reconnecting rivers to the floodplains, and enhancing groundwater recharge and reducing pollutant transport. So pursuit of under Wisconsin statutes 27.7.24, parentheses 1 and A, an agency may promulgate an emergency rule when preservation of the public's peace, health, safety, and welfare requires a rule to take in effect before completion of a permanent rulemaking. So recent storm damage events and flooding in the Milwaukee River Basin have resulted in substantial property damage and sanitary sewer overflows to the Milwaukee River and Lake Michigan. So creating acute public safety risks and mitigating those and environmental harm, given these conditions, prompt action is warranted to implement a watershed scale measurement that would reduce peak flows and increase stormwater storage. So you
Bob,
have
you're
authority.
over your time. If you can just kind of come to a close, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah. So basically, this strategic plan would support the flood management and climate resilience that beavers provide, for upstream storage. I did provide a letter which has more comments in there and mitigates the flood risks. It fits in with their Green Seams program. So they want to purchase about 10 to 15,000 acres. So to have that water, that area protected. So it's also the most cost effective. So it's timely given that the department is currently going through a beaver management re-evaluation of the new management plan. And so we're requesting department action that the Superior Bioconservancy, in partnership with MMSD and other agency and the other partners, UWM, that you consider
I think-
this.
Thank you, Bob. We really appreciate your comments, and I appreciate also the written submittal. So thank you so much.
Do you have any questions, Robin?
I'm going to ask, are there any questions from the board?
I'm just, curious kind of where we're at with the beaver management plan. And if you're, kind of how that involvement is going so far, if you're, or where we're at with.
Eric, do you want to just, Eric Loebner, Division Administrator, can just give a very quick update on that.
Yeah, Chair Schmidt, Natural Resources Board members, and Secretary Young. Yeah, we are through the public involvement process, and the team is currently working on drafting the update to the beaver management plan. So we were expecting to have that coming to the board here in a number of months here as they work through writing the whole plan, taking that input, and then writing the plan.
Is this something that could be incorporated given the current parameters?
Yeah, so there's always a number of different ideas that are brought forward, and then those are all considered as they work through the plan and ultimately consider, well, how do we best manage beaver populations on a statewide scale, considering all different potential impacts and different user groups involved.
Thanks
Not
for
an answer.
commenting, Bob, too.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your time, Bob. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is virtual. Kathy Wendling from Bayfield will talk about the beaver population distribution as part of the beaver management planning process. Kathy, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning, Secretary Hune and board members. I'm Kathy Wendling, representing the Friends of the North Pikes Creek Wetlands Organization. Along with Bob, I recently served on the DNR's Beaver Management Plan Committee, which spent 6 months developing recommendations to update the state's 10-year beaver management plan. One of the committee's top recommendations to the DNR was to conduct regular statewide beaver management population monitoring using remote sensing technology to estimate beaver populations by watershed. This recommendation was strongly informed by testimony from Dr. Emily Fairfax, a nationally recognized beaver researcher and ecohydrologist at the University of Minnesota. She presented research on beavers and wetland hydrology to the committee and also explained the machine learning image recognition model she developed to analyze high-resolution satellite imagery to accurately identify beaver activity. At present, the DNR has no reliable scientific method for measuring beaver numbers or distribution across the landscape. Without that information, the DNR zone-specific population objectives lack a sound foundation. Yet Wisconsin kills thousands of beavers each year without a population estimate, a monitoring system, or a clear understanding of the long-term effects. This is not a responsible approach for managing a keystone species that provides major ecological benefits for both people and wildlife. The committee concluded that Wisconsin urgently needs a science-based estimate of beaver populations by watershed. Quite simply, you cannot manage what you do not measure. After hearing Dr. Fairfax, the committee broadly supported hiring her and her research team to determine beaver population and distribution statewide. She estimated the cost at $170,000 for the entire state. Dr. Fairfax also offered to review the new beaver management plan at no cost. Her expertise has previously informed beaver management plan updates in numerous other states across the nation. As Wisconsin faces changing climate conditions, the new plan should be grounded in current, peer-reviewed science. Using Dr. Fairfax's expertise would strengthen the plan and help the state manage beavers in ways that support biodiversity, climate resilience, and healthy watersheds. I urge the NRB members to listen to Dr. Fairfax's presentation and to support the committee's recommendation for the DNR to hire Dr. Fairfax to scientifically determine beaver population and distribution in the state, and to review and make suggestions for the beaver management plan during the rewrite process. I have provided a handout which links to Dr. Fairfax's presentation, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you. You have hit that 3 minutes perfectly. Just wanted to commend you for that. Are there questions or comments from the board? I just want to say I started looking at that video. It's long, but it was really informative what I listened to, and I appreciate you sending that to us. It's always good to have that background information for us and give us, we're not experts on any of this, so it was appreciated. So thank you, and I think more to come when it comes to the beaver management plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And then our last speaker is in person, Anita Martin, talking about WPDES wastewater permits. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you all for serving on the Natural Resources Board. Our family's lived in Lake Mills since 2001, and between 2020 and 2024, I served on the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors, having decided not to seek a third term after that. My comments today pertain to current procedures used and standards in place regarding the releasing of finalized WPDES wastewater permits. In our community, we have a facility with 2,770,000 egg-laying chickens, and in November of last year, the DNR released the draft permit publicly. A public hearing was virtually held December 11th. Public comment period on the proposed permit was closed December 18th. So we're at more than 5 months right now, and the wastewater permit has not been finalized, and the response to comments that people have submitted have not been issued. Initially, our DNR wastewater engineer, our contact, Eric Struck, who has been nothing but respectful and timely in his responses, indicated he expected the permit to be finalized in April. Subsequent questions and communication, most recently 2 weeks ago, about the status of the permit, Eric stated in writing, department staff and management are currently reviewing comments from several recent hearings for consistency and accuracy. There is no information outstanding for the permit review. Thank you for your patience. So there's no outstanding comments or information that is needed from the facility. There are no pending compliance issues or notices of violation from the DNR or from EPA, according to what Eric has told me. So this is kind of a concern. So some of the issues that may result because of this delay, if the facts on the ground have changed, interested parties do not have the opportunity to publicly speak or address their concerns regarding the changes. It's my understanding the DNR has 60 days to issue an air pollution control permit once the DNR holds the public hearing, unless there's a request to extend. Now, comparing an air permit to a wastewater permit is like elephants to turtles. I realize that. However, there is no provision in the current standards that I'm aware of that provides how long the DNR has to issue. Oh, am I already at 3 minutes? Oh my God. Okay. All right. Can I, okay, well, I will be submitting additional questions.
I was just going to say, you're welcome to submit your full comments in writing, and we do look at them, and so do folks within the department.
Okay. I will have a number of questions that I would like to ask about what the standards are in place and how this compares to other facilities, and some questions specifically to the Natural Resources Board members. Sorry for the, thank you.
No, it's fine. Thank you so much. We appreciate presenting that information to us. Does anyone have any questions or comments? All right, thank you again. That concludes our public forum part of the agenda. I think we will, the next item is informational item, and I know that it might draw a lot of interest. What I'd like to do is just take a quick 15-minute break, and then we'll come back for the informational item and then the remaining parts of the agenda. So we'll adjourn for 15 minutes. Thank you. I think we're going to go ahead and reconvene the meeting. Appreciate everyone's patience and glad we all had a little bit of a stretch break. The next item is informational item B, which is the update on Wisconsin's elk herds and the 2026 elk season quotas. Josh Spiegel is here virtually, and I want to welcome you, Josh, and we look forward to hearing your presentation. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Chair Schmidt, members of the board, and Secretary Young. Can everyone hear me okay?
Perfect.
All right, thank you. Josh Spiegel here before you today to talk about agenda item 6B, kind of general update on the Wisconsin elk herd, our current 2026 quotas, and answer any questions you guys might have today. So with that, please, next slide. First, we're going to cover a quick recap of the 2025 elk hunting season and kind of some history related to our elk hunts in the state of Wisconsin. So as a quick season recap, last year we harvested a total of 15 elk statewide, and that includes state and Ojibwa tribal hunter harvests. In the northern elk zone, we harvested 7 total elk, all of which were legal bull elk. 4 were harvested by state licensed hunters and 3 were harvested by tribal hunters. Within the central zone, we had a quota of 9 total elk and harvested 8. 2025 did mark the first season in which we held an antlerless elk hunt in the state of Wisconsin, which did occur in the Central Elk Management Zone. Within that, 5 of the 5 state licenses were filled by elk hunters. Briefly, I will draw attention to the 2025 hunt. The picture in the center, that's a 16-year-old female that was able to successfully harvest a bull last year during the elk hunting season. So kind of cool, wanted to call out that situation as that was a pretty remarkable hunt. Moving on to kind of our history of the elk hunts here in Wisconsin. As you can see on the table presented on the right, we have had pretty steady applications over the years, about 25,000 applicants every year for the last 5 years. In 2024, we did institute a hunt in the Central Elk Management Zone. The application stayed steady with about that 25,000, but hunters did have to select either the Northern Zone or Central Zone to hunt at that point in time. So we've seen a little bit of distribution there. In 2025, we did offer that antlerless harvest. So as the board knows, we did implement the emergency rule for the drawing status of this year's elk hunting license at the April board meeting. In 2025, we did have to draw all applicants from the same pot. So the 8,400 that applied for the Central Zone, the 9 selected applicants for that were drawn from that same pot. And then again, just looking over the total quotas and harvest from the previous elk hunting seasons. I do want to remind everyone that of the elk application fees, the $10 application fee, 7 of that $10 is earmarked to go back for elk management, monitoring, and research. Next slide, please. A brief update on the current status. So this would be our trend line, the graph to the right there of each management zone. So we do have the Northern Elk Management Zone and the Central Elk Management Zone depicted within the state of Wisconsin image on the graph there. Within the Northern Elk Management Zone, we are projecting a population estimate of about 383 elk post-calving 2026. So after calves are born, we expect to have about 380, a little more than that, calves or elk on the ground. Within the Central Elk Management Zone, we have about 223 elk to be projected. These are obviously point estimates, and we understand that the population might vary a little bit up or down. So within the graphs there, we have indicated in kind of the green highlighting the 95% confidence interval within each population. So for sake of the graph, we expect within 95% that population falls somewhere within that line, with the higher value being closer to that line of estimate. You will see in the Northern Zone, there's kind of a point where it narrows right around 2024. We did have to make an adjustment to our population due to a difficult winter. We reset using a minimum population estimate at that point, and then continued growing after the last 2 seasons here. Next slide, please. Within the elk quota considerations, we meet as an elk advisory committee. So a group of internal, external, and NGO partners that discuss all options related to elk and elk management. With that recommendation is moved to the department where discussions continue around that quota. Within those discussions, we routinely talk about the biological integrity, the growth rates of the population, the distribution of where harvest is occurring and how that's affecting each herd, the tribal significance of both elk and elk hunting within the state of Wisconsin, the public satisfaction, both related to elk hunting and elk viewing. That's a very common thing within both management zones, is the opportunity to be able to view and see elk even outside of the hunting practices. And then lastly, we also discuss kind of that social aspect or more of a social aspect related to conflict, both at the agricultural level and the vehicle collision level. We understand that there's concerns on there. So all of these considerations are taken into our recommendations, again, at the discussion at the committee advisory level and at the department level. Next slide, please. kind of pointing towards that conflict level right away, we want to look into a few things here, including harassment as abatement techniques to remove elk from areas where they're creating conflict. We utilize trapping and relocation of elk as a very strong tool. This also allows us the opportunity to move elk into areas of preferred habitat that may not be utilized. We use other techniques called diversion fields, where we'll work with private landowners or other public land ownership to allow those high quality habitats to attract elk during the heavy growing seasons. We utilize hunting units, so this will be new in 2026, and we'll talk further about this in a couple coming slides. But the hunting units allow us to divert hunter effort to potentially areas of increased conflict or increased targeted efforts. We also have the damage program, so the Wisconsin Damage Abatements Claims Program, which we utilize through our county and other partners to assist with agricultural conflict. And then we do have the ability to issue a nuisance shooting permit. This tends to be a very targeted effort that can be used to remove unique situations on the landscape. Next slide, please. So now I want to talk a little bit about the 2026 elk hunting quota and how it was laid out for each of the management zones. So I'm going to start with the Northern Elk Management Zone. We do have a quota for 2026 involving 8 bull elk, no antlerless harvest in the Northern Zone. And then because the Northern Elk Management Zone is fully encompassed by the ceded territory, 50% of our quota may be declared by the Ojibwa tribes for harvest. This allows the department to issue 4 licenses through a state drawing. New this year, again, like I just stated, we're going to be implementing hunting units and hunting unit groupings. So as indicated on the map there, the Northern Zone can be broken out into 7 hunting units. Those 7 hunting units are then grouped to create 3 groupings that will be eligible for hunting in 2026, as well as a 4th group that we closed. So units A, C, and D will all have valid licenses issued during the 2026 elk hunting seasons, and applicants will need to identify one of these 3 locations or one of the 3 hunting unit groups for the Central Zone when applying for elk licenses. Additionally, the Ojibwa tribes will have up to 4 elk that they can harvest through their ceded territory treaty rights. The Ojibwa tribes do not have to follow the elk hunting unit groupings, so they're eligible to harvest an elk anywhere within the elk management zone for their 4 tags. Next slide, please. And then further, the Central Elk Management Zone is increasing their quota to 12 elk total in the 2026 season, and this is broken up within the 3 subgroups. A lot of discussion did occur of how we wanted to lay these unit groupings out to be as effective as possible. So starting with the bull quota, we identified that there are strong bull cohorts within each of these identified unit groupings, and that hunting would be sufficient and available for any licensed hunter that put in. Moving to the antlerless quota, we wanted to identify both groups E and group G as areas with potential conflict and the ability to utilize elk hunting as a tool to resolve some of those conflict issues. At the same time, we wanted to identify Unit 10 or Group F as it's identified in the map as a place where cow elk have been doing well and not causing conflict. So we wanted to offer relief for those animals while targeting efforts outside of that unit grouping F. In total, we identified 6 bull and 6 antlerless for harvest in 2026. And all of those will be drawn here shortly at the completion of the application period. Next slide, please. So wrapping up the timeline for the 2026 application and hunting season, our timeline or our application period did open March 1st and runs through May 31st of this year. So we got about a little less than a week left for applications. In early June, usually within the first couple days, the license drawing will occur through customer service. Those hunters will be vetted through wildlife staff and then contacted. Each successful hunter will be given kind of the time frame and layout of the summer and the elk hunting season. Within that, we'll include the elk hunter education course. So this orientation course is mandatory within state statute that every drawn elk hunter must attend. That generally occurs sometime around Labor Day, plus or minus a week or so. That will prepare the hunter for the elk hunting season, which will occur October 17th through December 13th of this year. This is also new in 2026. We have an expanded elk hunting season structure. So we identified that the previous relationship to the Wisconsin gun deer season was likely irrelevant from the elk hunting side of things. So this allows our elk hunters more opportunity and hopefully gets closer to that assumed 100% success rate. So we understand that it's a once in a lifetime drawing, and we want our elk hunters to have as much opportunity as we can to pursue the filling of that tag. Next slide, please. So with that, I want to open it up to the board for any questions, and thank you very much for letting me share my presentation today.
Thanks so much, Josh. Are there questions from the board?
Well, I got to ask one after seeing that picture. That's a pretty impressive elk. What do we have for public lands in these two units, the northern and the southern? Is there much available public land, or are most of these elk harvested on private?
That's a great question. So the management zones themselves have about 70% public land in both. That makeup's a little bit different. Each has a major state forest. The northern zone does have the Flambeau River State Forest. Central zone has the Black River State Forest. Within the northern zone, a large land block owner up there is the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest. And then in both management zones, there's high proportions of county forest. So quite a bit of public land, but some of those hunting units do kind of alter a little bit. Within the central zone, as folks on this committee might know, the increase of public or private land does go up on those fringe units. And the reason that occurs is because we want to target animals that do move into those units for hunting purposes, not for management purposes. So it might be a little more difficult for access, but again, that's where conflict is occurring, and that's where we want to target within those individual units.
Thank you.
Thanks. Other questions?
I had the briefing earlier with you and Robin, and one thing I really appreciated was you sharing the history of the elk population in our state. And so maybe for the other board members and for the public, if you could just kind of give that rundown of the research feasibility study and kind of since 1995, I think I have in my notes. But if you wouldn't mind just sharing a bit of that with everyone else.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it at the Cliff's Notes version here. I know we had the privilege of talking last week, but yes, for all members of the board and anyone else in room and tuning in, it's been a very interesting process that we've gone through to bring elk back here in the state of Wisconsin. So in the late 80s, we were ordered by state legislation to do a feasibility study of elk and their ability, or elk, large ungulates, including moose and woodland caribou, and their ability to sustain here in the state of Wisconsin. And ultimately, it was determined that elk within 15 identified locations, which were identified using various metrics, both at a biological and social level, including tolerance of elk, were identified. Within those areas, three of those areas are now identified as our current elk management zones. The northern zone made up 2 of them, and the central zone makes up 1 of them. And these areas were vetted through public comment hearings, amongst many, many other things, and had extremely high support both locally, regionally, and statewide. So in 1995, the Clam Lake Elk Management Zone, or Clam Lake Herd, was established through a research funding opportunity that Governor Tommy Thompson directed to University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. 25 elk were released on the landscape. After 4 years, it was determined that those 25 elk would be viable on the landscape, and management decisions or management authority was transferred to the Wisconsin DNR, in which we wrote our first elk management plan, shortly followed by a elk management plan in 2001 for Black River Falls, the central herd. So within that opportunity, we did a lot of outreach for both of those locations, including, like you stated, Rachel, the public outreach, the tolerance levels, everything related to that. And within that opportunity, we started moving forward with the Jackson County herd. Unfortunately, CWD was found in southeastern or southwestern Wisconsin in 2002, and that kind of halted all efforts related to transport of large ungulates within the state of Wisconsin. So in the late 2010s, we started revisiting some of those options once we had a better understanding of what was going on with CWD. And in 2012, we created an amendment to our elk management plans, allowing us to move forward with not only establishing the central herd, but supplementing our genetics with an out-of-state transport of elk. So through the years of 2015 through 2019, we moved over 170 elk from the state of Kentucky to supplement our elk in the northern management zone and to establish the central elk herd. So since then, we've been managing the two populations, the northern elk management zone and the central elk management zone in recent years. And then obviously, just a quick recap, we did approve the 2024 through 34 Wisconsin Elk Management Plan in August of 2024. So we will be operating under that management plan through the duration of that plan timeframe.
Really neat history. Thank you.
Are there other questions? I have just a couple observations, but a question too. What is the, I'm assuming that we're not anywhere near like the land carrying capacity for these herds. Is that correct? Can you kind of address like the projected growth and how that relates to the carrying capacity?
Yes, great question, Robin. So within our elk management plan, we do not have a point goal for our elk management herds. So within our management herds and within our management plan, we've identified kind of an adaptive management approach using objectives. The only real point goal that we're targeting is our minimum herd size. So we talked about the biological integrity of our herds. We've identified through our carrying capacity and our habitat types that within the northern herd, we'd like to get to at least 650 animals, and within our central herd, about 220. That's kind of the minimum benchmark. So until we hit those points, which the northern herd is still growing to, and our central herd is right about at, we'll be looking to increase those herds. Once we reach that minimum effort, we have a biological or a social and biological constructed table that creates objectives at certain herd ranges. So similar to the wolf management plan, we've identified these brackets. Within those brackets, as the herd grows or maintains, we've got the ability to either increase, maintain, or decrease the herd depending on a whole list of metrics and objectives that we can discuss. That table was created on about 1 elk per square mile, which within the eastern U.S. has been identified as a social carrying capacity of elk. Biologically speaking, we can hold on our landscape somewhere between about 2.8 and 3.4 elk per square mile. So we are managing our elk in Wisconsin based on a social aspect more so than a biological aspect. That biological aspect is taken into consideration locally, as we do know they are a herd associated animal.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask whether or not all the calving has occurred, because when we talked, I think you were on a 24/7 watch. So are you still expecting more calves, or are they done?
We are expecting some. We've actually only had one so far, and as luck would be have it, one was born overnight. So I'm going to be shedding this suit and putting on my field gear as soon as I leave the meeting.
All right, well, we don't want to delay you too much here. I also want to express gratitude with the whole concept of adaptive management and how important the balance of biological and ecological with sociological issues. So kudos for being able to be nimble as things change in the future. So that's a great kudo to you and the plan and the department. So any other questions or comments?
I would just encourage you and the department to continue to engage and work with those producer groups that are being impacted, and that they're, any sort of preventative, I guess, or any prevention is great, but also maybe being flexible with some of those funding if possible. And just listening, engage.
All right, any other questions or comments? Thanks, Josh. Just like put on those field clothes, get out there.
And wrangle a baby out.
Yeah. Good luck and thanks for the information.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
They grab a leg and don't let go.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to turn this over to Secretary Yun for Department Secretary Matters.
Great, thank you. First, I'm going to do some retirement recognitions. We've got quite a number of years here to celebrate. The first is David Calhoun from Community Financial Assistance of 30 years. Dave retired from the Environmental Loan Section in April 2026. He initially served as a part-time program assistant in the Bureau of Community Financial Assistance and was then hired as a part-time loan project manager. In the spring of 2013, Dave accepted a position as a grant manager working on non-point source grant projects. Then in September of 2015, he returned to the Environmental Loan Section where he filled various roles, serving as a loan project manager, pilot projects program specialist, and compliance maintenance annual report specialist. Outside of work, Dave is a former professional musician and an avid cross-country skier who also enjoys camping, canoeing, cycling, hiking, and spending time with his daughter and granddaughter. We're grateful for his many contributions and wish him the best in retirement. Second is William Phelps from Drinking Water and Groundwater of 35 years. Bill began his career with the department in 1991, where he served as a hydrogeologist, contributing to both the wastewater and drinking and groundwater programs. Bill played a leading role in numerous successful efforts to establish groundwater standards in Wisconsin, working collaboratively and proactively with a wide range of stakeholders. Over the years, he contributed to countless department projects, including the Milwaukee Deep Tunnel, a highlight of his career. Equally important to Bill was the communication of science. He consistently emphasized that technical knowledge must be accessible to be effective, which led him to coordinate activities for the Groundwater Coordinating Council, support groundwater teacher workshops, and maintain strong connections with researchers to stay current on emerging issues. In retirement, Bill looks forward to traveling and spending more time with his children and friends, including to the pickleball court. We are grateful for his dedication and wish him the best in retirement. And Robin, did you want to say something before I go to the third?
I just wanted to mention that I worked closely with Dave and Bill, and they were just outstanding employees, and it was a pleasure to work with them, and I just want to personally wish them best in their retirement. It's a loss when we have people retire, but it's a gain for them to be able to do their other passions in life.
Absolutely. Thank you. And the last is Jill Crom, the Office of Business Services of 41 years. Jill Crom has retired after over 40 years with the department, including 5 years with the Division of Public Safety and Resource Protection. In November of 2021, Jill served as a dual LTE with Business Services. Throughout her time with the department, Jill used her skills and knowledge to provide critical support to our staff as a P-card proxy and assisting with our miscellaneous WEX fuel cards. Jill took great deal of pride in her work and looks at ways to improve the organization. Her knowledge, contributions, and support helped keep things moving forward and ensured that operations continued smoothly. Jill has shared that her time with the department has been a true learning experience, specifically the warden service and law enforcement. We're grateful for her dedication and wish her the best in retirement. And I seek approval for recognition of these 3 incredible employees.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved, Chair. Deb?
And seconded by Deb.
Great.
Do we have to vote on that or not?
I don't think so.
Okay, we're good.
Thank you very much for that approval. And just wonderful, like almost 100 years of service, over 100 years of service there. The next thing is just on the real estate transactions. Are there any questions on the real estate transactions? Okay, great. And the last is just my secretary's matter. Just thank you again for joining us today for this meeting. It's been a really effective meeting. I thought we did a lot of great business and learned a lot of things. So it never ceases to amaze me as you go into like over a year cycle, you kind of get into a rhythm of what's coming up, especially with the wildlife and fisheries management pieces. But there's always new things that we're exploring, like the designated use. So I just think there's a lot of really great things that we can continue to do and improve here at the department. I appreciate your support of it. I'll turn it back to you, Robin.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to board member matters. Deb, you're on the list first here.
Good morning. And thank you for allowing me to do this virtually. We had a little grandchild juggle last night and this morning. Got the boys on the bus. And they obviously know how many days are left in the school year. So that was great. I would like to just kind of reinforce the representation by Maley with the AI centers. In my neck of the woods, I see these, daily, the gravel trucks, the cement trucks that go down Highway 60, cutting across up into Port Washington. But we see on the state capitol level, nothing being done to address or to regulate, I should say, these data centers. And according to the last Marquette Law School poll, 70% of people in Wisconsin feel that there's more cost than benefit to what's going on with these centers. So I really hope that the legislature, when it reconvenes, takes this seriously, the water quality issues, the other environmental issues. We're looking at building at least 11 more in Wisconsin. And so that's just kind of my harp for the day. But anyway, thank you for letting me do this virtually. Great job, Robin.
Thanks, Deb. Glad that we're able to make this technology work. Jeff, you're up next.
Okay, I just want to congratulate the retirees. That's a pretty impressive number of years that these individuals have had their whole career with the Department of Natural Resources. It just goes to show that the department's able to retain this knowledge, and it's a lot of good experiences and stuff, going with the retirees. But speaking from being retired, more power to them. So, I was briefed for our upcoming June meeting, our tour next month. The staff is well prepared and really didn't have much to add to their tours, but it looks like it's going to be a good tour for us end of June. And it was well organized, and you could tell it was not their first rodeo. So I'm looking forward to our tour next month. I also went to the Wisconsin Conservation Congress meeting this month. Found it very interesting and met a number of people, and actually was able to reconnect with a number of folks that I worked with in the past. So it was a good meeting and enjoyed it very much. Was interested in some of the resolutions that the Natural Resources Board had put out there to see what level of excitement there was for supporting alternative funding, and it looks like there is a lot of support out there. I'm not quite sure what we'll take from all that, how we'll move forward with that. But I wasn't too surprised really to see that, there was such a strong support for our resolution. So that's it for me. Thanks, Robin.
You bet. Thank you, Jeff. Rachel?
Oh, I was looking who it was. So like the secretary, I have a pretty busy calendar. So since our last meeting, I attended the Wisconsin Lakes and Rivers Conference. primarily to see the presentation from the department, from the Interagency Water Quality Task Force, and then just kind of, you know, from that user group, their feedback and their questions. So it was, I think, don't have his first name, but Gesh was his last name, and I know we've met a handful of times, but he did a really good job presenting that. I've also continued to engage with the projects and initiatives that came out of that working group through the WASH conference on the road and some of the other groups. And so really continue to be impressed with what came out of that. Also attended a Wisconsin Land and Water Partners event with DNR and DACCAP staff represented there. Again, emphasizing that interagency, what do we say? You know, it's almost intentionally overlapping in some ways, but also all those other conservation partners throughout the state. Speaking of which, I attended a Green Bay Conservation Partners event up in Green Bay and was able to get updates on some of the projects in that area of concern, which is really exciting. On the farm, I planted 14 acres of warm season pasture for grassland bird habitat and to graze in probably 2 years or so. I'm in the middle of calving season and 2/3 of the way done with 2 new babies born yesterday, and I'm not sure if I'll have any fresh ones. So when we were briefing with Joe, where it was, I know that tagging and catching those babies, you have about a 1 or maybe 2 day window before they're like lightning. I wanted to thank all of our public, our open forum participants too. Our water quality and safe drinking water is definitely of concern. And so, you know, please keep bringing your issues out and I encourage the staff. I appreciate that everyone also said that the staff that they worked with was really helpful and professional. It's just, you know, whose job is this? And so I think we all need to, you know, be organized and have a lot of conversations. I shared it earlier that I recently tested my own private well and it far exceeded the safe drinking water standard for nitrates. And so it's something that's impacting many of us in our rural communities. And so anything that we can do as the department to help and support people to have safe drinking water and high quality recreational areas or water. Encouraging, then I also got up to the state parks this weekend. So went up to the Northern Highlands State Park and the Chequamegon Nicolet National Forest. So again, the lieutenant that was working up there, I was just up in your neck of the woods, if he's still here, and it's just beautiful. So get a state park sticker and use it. Get every cent worth out of it.
Thanks. Thanks, Rachel. Doug?
Thanks, Chair. I don't have a whole bunch. Rachel, you're pretty busy. Yeah, so just my usual thanks to staff and DNR employees for all the good work they do. I mean, we can see it here today on the things that they present to us and the works that's getting done. So very appreciative of all of that they're doing. Congratulations to our International Officer of the Year. That's impressive. And thanks for the work that he does in the ceded territories as well. There's a lot of work up there. Just wanted everybody to know that we didn't forget about the wildlife killing contest. I didn't, rather. We had a couple of letters come in since our last meeting, including folks from Project Coyote. I'm going to take some time in the next few weeks to try to get some internal discussions going. Secretary Young, I'll reach out to your office. I'd like to sit down and schedule sometime in the next few weeks to have discussions, maybe some staff and legal to get some question answered and some ideas kicked around. So planning on doing that. I'll reach out. In non-board area, I accepted a new position with the tribe. So the transition's been busy. Kind of why I've been kind of out of pocket, but mixing in some camping trips with that, it's kept me really busy. So I'm going to catch up pretty soon and you'll hear from me. So, all right. Thanks everybody again. That's all I have.
All right. Thanks, Doug. Really appreciate it. I just wanted to give some special recognition to the transition in leadership from the Wisconsin Conservation Congress. And I want to thank Rob Bowman for his leadership for the past few years with that Congress. It's great to see all the things that they've done and continue to do, and the representation across the state. I also want to recognize Kyle with her leadership for the Youth Conservation Congress part of that, and I think Rob's going to continue to work with that and make sure that that continues into the future. It's really impressive to see the energy and enthusiasm that those kids had, and Kyle does an awesome job with doing that, and I want to congratulate the new leadership and look forward to working with them in the future. I also wanted to, sometimes it's hard to even read my handwriting here, but I also want to kind of comment that the NRB questions that we asked, it was really informative. And I think it will really help as we get a new legislative cycle coming for next year. It'll help be informative to the new legislators and to the continuing legislators to help them understand and hear public interest, especially as it comes to the importance of funding conservation throughout the state and maintaining our conservation legacy. And then lastly, I just want to give kudos to the department. The department has always been recognized as being a national leader in a variety of areas, but the focus on water quality, water body designations for subsistence fishing and wild rice production is phenomenal. And I know it's going to be a challenge and it's going to be a lot of hard work, but I just really appreciate the focus on that and the importance of that especially for this state. So with that, I think we will go ahead and draw the meeting to a close and wish everyone safe and happy summertime travels and outdoor activities, and look forward to our June meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion
And
by
get
Rachel.
outside.
Second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. I think all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Right.
All right, grab some beef sticks.
Oh, the honey barbecue. I think that's my favorite.